Hey everybody, this is Nadia. In this video I want to talk about Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke. This is a book that I've been meaning to read for a long time. I've heard it recommended by quite a lot of people, most recently by this guy who's a futurist. He wrote about it a lot, about how this book really shaped his understanding of technology. So I was quite curious about it, but I was also a little bit scared of reading it or put off. I've noticed that a lot of sci-fi books, they tend to be, even though they talk about really exciting things, they really tend to be quite boring, and the characters seem to be really flat, and a lot of those books are just men going very decisively into rooms and arguing with each other, and the future of galaxies being decided in those rooms, and some weird plot twists and all of that. So I was a little bit scared of that, but actually the book turned out to be really quite something. It was unexpected. The plot was really unusual, I would say, even though it started in a quite predictable way. This is spoiler free for those who haven't read the book. So basically in this book what happens is that a race of advanced aliens descend on our planet and they become known as overlords. They control everything that's happening in the world, but their goal is actually not to destroy humanity as it often happens in sci-fi books, but there is some other goal that they're pursuing, and this is like the big reveal and the big plot twist of this book. Why are they there? What are they doing? As part of their rule, they actually create this sort of utopian society where they eliminate poverty, they eliminate war, they eliminate suffering, they prohibit animal cruelty. They create a situation where people don't have to work to provide them for themselves, because everything is so cheap that everybody has all the basic necessities, so people only do the work that they want. So the big tension in this book is what happens if there is no longer any struggle, what happens if there is no longer any suffering. So the plot in this book was, as I said, quite unpredictable, and it kept me on the edge of my seat until the very end. I never expected it to go that way. So if you like really intense plots and plot-driven stories, I think you will like it. I will say that most of the characters in this book, they were cardboard characters. However, I wouldn't say these are the worst characters I've read in a sci-fi book, but definitely read this book for the story, not the character. The book, as is typical in sci-fi, it covers a lot of ground. It goes over a couple of decades on Earth, like what happens after the aliens come, what happens in a few decades, how does society change, how do people live when they no longer struggle, when there is no longer any religion left, because most people stop believing in God in this book because they see the overlords in the sky doing everything, making miracles happen. So what happens with the world when there is no longer any art? Because art dies out in this world, there are still people who try to maintain it, but in most cases people no longer make really creative art. As art dies out, because there is no conflict, there is no struggle, what does life look like? And I really enjoyed thinking about it as I was reading this book, as I was seeing how the society changes, how people change. What I found curious was that most people in this book, they are quite okay with an alien race coming over and taking over the world and controlling everything, because the aliens provide security, they provide structure, they provide a level of living that people find comfortable, and a lot of them, they don't really question it, they don't really want to do anything with it. Throughout our history, we have obviously seen many examples when people were willing and happy to give up their freedom to get some promise of security or safety, and it was really fascinating to read how the book went about describing those sort of societal changes. So if you like exploring really deep topics and asking yourself big questions, I think this book will be something that you will really enjoy. So you will think about life, you will think about death and love and family and God and art and suffering and happiness and freedom. What does it mean to be a human? What is the balance between freedom and suffering? It is a book where those topics are raised, but very organically, and the book makes you think about them, but without actually preaching to you or asking you those questions directly. This book will definitely stay with me for a long time. I think it's one of the top sci-fi books that I've ever read. Like I said, a lot of books that I've tried to read, they suffer from this lack of good characters to the point where it really becomes so cringe that it's really hard to read. Let me know if you like this book as well, and thank you so much for watching. I hope this was interesting in some way, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.